The Four Elements practice is a really interesting practice. As I mentioned, I just finished teaching the first retreat I've taught on the Four Elements, and it went really well. People really took to the practices, and I really got to see the retreat impact on folks. The Four Elements is a kind of deconstruction. The category that it's in, it straddles the samatha, purification of mind, and the start of vipassana in the Pawak presentation of the Theravadan path. And the way that it's practiced is one gets in contact. There are the four elements of earth, water, fire, and air. And in earth, there are 6 characteristics. The other 3 elements have 2 characteristics each. And we start with earth element with the different characteristics, and we want to sit with them with sufficient concentration that we drop below the conceptual understanding. For example, with heaviness, if we're in the conceptual understanding of heaviness, we're making all sorts of associations. We're using language to quantify and apply. Well, hardness is this, hardness like a diamond, hardness like a piece of metal. We start making associations. And so we need to sit beneath that to get to where we can really have a felt sense of hardness. I can't tell you what hardness is, but I know it from my own direct contact. And this is using really the intuitive knowing. So it's using non-conceptual practice to tie into the non-conceptual understanding of each of the characteristics. And then as we work through those, they're paired. Hardness and softness are a pair. So we work hardness, finding it in our body, locating it in our body. Normally, nails, teeth, and bones are the category of hardness. And then everything else in the body is softness. So once we find hardness in the body, it's fairly easy to shift to softness because it's everything else. And so we go back and forth with these 2 characteristics, sitting with them beneath the conceptual level to the direct felt sense level of them. And then we try to hold them in pairs. We hold the hardness and softness together, feeling both hardness and softness. And then once we get that down, then we move to the next pair, which are roughness and smoothness. Same thing, finding roughness in the body. Often the heel of the foot is one place. Some people found roughness on body hair, facial hair, things like that. So you can find it, and then you same thing, you drop beneath the conceptual understanding of it, the labeling, and you get to the direct felt sense of it, knowing it through direct contact. And once one has all 6 of the characteristics of earth element, then they rotate through in the pairs, hardness, softness as a pair, roughness, smoothness, and then heaviness, lightness. And you rotate through when you can get both a clear felt sense of each characteristic and also have a correspondence in the body, having a resonance of hardness, softness in the body somewhere. You don't need to find all the hardness or all the softness. That's not necessary. But it's important to locate them in your body, to have a body location. And then once one has all 3 pairs, then you start combining, trying to hold 2 pairs at a time, feeling each fully, meaning feeling the direct felt sense of each characteristic fully, and then having a body corresponding, a part of your body lighting up also is part of that. So anyway, so that's the progression. And then once you can get all 6 and hold all 6 at the same time, then you would shift then to holding earth element, and that should highlight those 6 characteristics, not with the same depth that you apply when you do them one by one, but it's still, you'll be with the non-conceptual contact. And the benefit of this practice is that probably our most primary self-identity is the body, particularly the body boundary. I'm contained inside the skin. What's outside the skin is not me. And the baby learns this because hunger's on the inside, food's on the outside. So we begin to recognize that not only does hunger happen to me, that must be me, but someone else solves my hunger. And we start realizing if they don't come and feed me, I'm in serious trouble. So that begins that shift we have when we're first born. We have an intimacy, a union with the manifest absolute, particularly the love and presence. And that's what we turn away from to invest in the birth family or the caregivers. So we invest in them as, in effect, they become the absolute. They become the gods to us, giving us life. And that's when we turn away, we invest. And that also is when that core wound gets established. That deep sense of I'm not good enough, I'm broken, I'm worthless, I'm valueless, I'm unlovable, I'm helpless, hopeless, bad, etc. And so the four elements helps us loosen that primary identity. And the reason that the body as an identity is so entrenched in our psyche is because it's something that we learn when we're pre-verbal. So we don't have language about it, but it's held, again, as a very primary identity, a very core identity. And with the four elements, we're recognizing how the body is composed of these 12 characteristics of the four elements. And as we identify them, that loosens that identity, because there isn't something independent here other than the four elements of this body. And we ultimately can see it in the world around us. So the world around us also begins to be deconstructed. We're deconstructing the conceptual investment we make in ourselves and the world. So Theravada Buddhism is typically oriented to the experience of impermanence. And impermanence is one of the ways that we break down not only what we consider to be a reality, but also the reality we take ourselves to be. So and that's more of an emphasis on no self. So it has both benefits. It helps us get in touch with impermanence, that all of these characteristics are conditioned characteristics. They have a birth, a decay, and death. So at some point, these four elements that make up this body are going to quit. In my unscientific jargon, I say when the atoms stop holding hands, then it goes into destruction. The conditioned moves towards ceasing. And so this is what we're getting in contact with doing this practice. We're seeing our conditioned reality of me, and we're also orienting toward what's impermanent, and also we're seeing what's permanent in that. We're cultivating no self, the conditioned self as a no self, and identifying with the unconditioned, with the absolute reality. And that's something that isn't conditioned. It doesn't have a birth or death. So it's a reality that's always in existence and always will be. And that's part of the shift we're making, is we're deconstructing our sense of self while we're orienting to what's unconditioned, to what's real, to what's unchanging in our experience. So that's the reason why we do this practice. And as I mentioned, the retreat I just finished, folks got into the non-conceptual felt sense virtually immediately on the retreat. So it was a really interesting process and practice as a group, as people were with these characteristics in a non-conceptual way, and got a real felt sense for them. And it helped loosen the sense of self. So it had its effect. Let me just pause here and see if there's any comments or questions.